What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Down Once More. Today, we have our first episode of August. So we got a mini episode coming at you, and it is going to be a Barbenheimer episode primarily. I'm going to be giving a couple mini reviews of Greta Gerwig's Barbie and Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer. I saw them back to back a week ago. Barbie at 10, some drinks, Oppenheimer at 2. So we're going to get into that first, and then after the reviews, there's going to be some other random news, miscellaneous stuff, discussions, a brief discussion on Marvel's Secret Invasion that just finished on Disney+. But we're going to keep it short and sweet today. So without further ado, let's get into the Barbie movie. So first off, I want to recognize one thing. Primarily, this movie is not made for me. That being said, I loved it. I will give this movie between 4 and 4.5 out of 5 stars. My official Letterboxd ranking is 4, but it was awesome. I loved it. And everyone who has a problem with it, if you just don't like it because it's not for you, fine. But if you're trying to go in and say that this movie demonizes men or any even remote bullshit like that, you just weren't paying attention or you haven't seen this movie. So before the movie even started, there was a minute I thought there was a good chance I was not going to survive the showing of the movie. I will tell that story on the next episode. So next week's episode with Rayleigh is wild. I'm not going to get into that here. But this, I think, is the first actual movie that I have seen in full that Greta Gerwig has directed, and she handled it great. Like, this is just a fun movie. It is a little bit, like, it's satirical at points, yes. Does it take itself seriously? No. But does it take itself seriously where it needs to? Absolutely. I thought this is a movie. It is primarily directed towards women and girls. Yes. However, it has some awesome themes and messages throughout it. Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling are fantastic in it. All of the supporting cast is fantastic too. America Ferrera, who I was first introduced to in Superstore, which is a fantastic sitcom. She is fantastic in this. Will Ferrell in the small bits he is fantastic. Kate McKinnon, which usually I'm not a huge fan because she's so over the top. She was so well measured, and I don't know if that has to do with Greta Gerwig's direction at it, but her character is one that they could have just pushed too far and made it too kind of absurdist and over the top. And I thought it had the perfect balance, the perfect level to it. People saying that this movie is cheesy or corny. Well, yeah, it's supposed to be at points. It is about these characters, these Barbies, who are real people in Barbie Land, a fictional setting that can then travel to the real world. Before I get into too much with it, I just want to give a heads up. I'm not going to go full spoilers with it. There might be some minor spoiler-y comments, but nothing that's going to ruin the experience for you. So it starts with a monologue from the very first teaser that we got for Barbie, which is the spoof of the 2001 Space Odyssey scene about the big Barbie doll standing there, the little girl smashing their dolls, just an extended sequence of that. And it is funny. It sets the tone for this movie that is going to be fantastical. And then we go into Barbie Land, and it talks about how Barbies were empowering and they fixed everything that was wrong in the world because they showed that women can be everything. They can be doctors, they can be astronauts, all of this stuff. That women are presidents, women are the Supreme Court in Barbie Land. Everything is run by the women. And then you have all the Kens, which Ryan Gosling is the main Ken in this. Simu Liu from Shang-Chi, he's in this as well as probably the second lead Ken. We also have Michael Cera as Alan. And just everyone brought their A game in this. Issa Rae's in it. She's the president of Barbie Land. And I thought that this movie handled the cheesiness, the humor so well with one of the kind of ridiculous scenes right in the beginning. This was in trailers, no spoilers. Ryan Gosling and Simu Liu going back and forth saying they're going to beat each other off. They're going to beat him off right now. Well, not if I beat you off first. Everything like that. Just innuendo that's, yes, it's somewhat juvenile. It is funny. It is great. And I I had someone tell me before I went to this that, well, the movie's okay if you're okay with it demonizing men. At no point in this movie does it demonize men. If anything, it has, yeah, they're a secondary character in the Barbie movie. Ryan Gosling and the Kens are secondary. Shocker. But they go on their own journey. When they go to the real world, Ken sees how things are going there, learns about the patriarchy, and at the end, ultimately, okay, I said I wasn't going to do any major spoilers. Here's going to be a minor spoiler. So if you don't want to be spoiled on the Barbie movie, skip ahead a minute and a half. But Ken realizes, because he tries to take things over, he has his Mojo Dojo Casa House. He turns the Barbie Dream House into Mojo Dojo Casa House, because Kens don't have anywhere to go. Kens are not given any attention in Barbie Land, and they feel marginalized. Barbie comes to the realization that she wasn't treating Ken fairly as well. Ken's talking about how he doesn't know who he is without Barbie, and he gets the realization that he is Kenuff without her and on his own. So it is also an empowering thing to men about putting down, not machoism. Now I can't think of the word, but the toxic masculinity and everything like that. But it's not done, I felt, as if it wasn't done in a beat you over the head with it. It was done in a very well-written way. One thing that I've seen kind of divisive both ways on the internet is America Ferrera gives a monologue about the things that women have to go through and the expectations that are put on them and just this societal pressure that women deal with. And I've seen people saying this is one of the most empowering things ever. I've seen people say this is a very, like, it's nothing we don't know. And so it wasn't, I thought it was going to be some awesome thing. And it was just, well, yeah, that's how it is. It sucks. And we know that. You're not saying anything revolutionary. And that, I think, is a bullshit take. Because if you know that and you realize it, that's awesome. But that has not really been said or had a platform. And this, I don't want to seem like I'm mansplaining feminism and the Barbie movie. Because like I said, this is not primarily me who is speaking towards, but I thought it was awesome that speech, that monologue is put in such a widespread movie. It doesn't get told very often. And there's people who will go to this movie, either they're hate watching it like Ben Shapiro, that are just missing the point that this is something that women have to deal with, that they're saying the quiet part out loud, essentially, is what it is that people don't realize that, people don't see it, people don't admit that. Just because you do, awesome. That doesn't mean it doesn't need to be said. So I thought this movie had some awesome moments. It was well cast, well acted, well written. It deserves all the praise it's getting. I think, will it get nominated? I'm not sure. It's different categories than Oppenheimer, the second movie we're going to talk about here, that I think is going to sweep a lot of award nominations and categories. But this, in the comedy realm, I feel like it doesn't get much better than this. As odd as that sounds about the Barbie movie, yeah, it's not like a comedy from the 2000s, like a Superbad or Knocked Up, that are more directed towards men. Like, this is more directed towards women. It's representation that we actually have been getting a little bit more of than usual this year with Joyride, which was a very well reviewed comedy that I have in my queue to watch that I haven't gotten to yet. But I think this is an awesome direction to go in. The critical success that this is seeing in the box office and theaters hopefully shows directors and studios that, hey, you have an underrepresented market in movies that are appealing towards women and targeted towards women. And hopefully they take that lead, that direction, and run with it. This had some great songs. The song Push, the I Wanna Push You Way Around. I hadn't thought of that song forever, and now it's stuck in my head because of this movie. Ryan Gosling has a song about I'm Just Ken that is fantastic. So there's our tying to the musical podcast for you. It has some good songs, and like I've stated, I am considering any movie that has at least 2 songs sung by cast members as a musical. So technically, by my own standards, Barbie is a musical, just like Top Gun and Forgetting Sarah Marshall. But I'm not going to go into a lot more. I thought this movie was great. It deserves all the love it's getting, all the hate that it's getting from stupid ass people. And maybe that's just because I'm on the internet too much. And so I see too many idiots just completely missing the point of this. If you didn't care for it, then maybe it just wasn't for you. Like a lot of guys just commenting like, oh, well, this was basic. This was juvenile. It was unfunny. It's like, well, it wasn't for you. And humor is subjective. So let people enjoy what they want to enjoy and just shut the fuck up and fuck off. Like the sign says, fuck off. I don't really have much more to add for Barbie. Oh, except Alexandra Shipp was in this as one of the Barbies, and you may recognize her from Tick, Tick, Boom, which we have reviewed on here. So another musical tie. Boom. And that's going to wrap up Barbie. Now let's move on to Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer is the 3-hour biopic based on Robert J. Oppenheimer, who created the atomic bomb, not on his own, with a whole bunch of crew that we get to see played out here. It is Christopher Nolan's newest movie. It is the first one that he's done since he kind of left his partnership with Warner Brothers, who was doing everything with him. Because he was kind of pissed about how they handled the Tenet release during COVID and putting it on HBO Max at the same time as theaters. Now they bungled that because he is a true cinephile. He believes in the physical media. He believes in seeing things in theaters, in film. This, he shot in IMAX and 70 millimeter film for the whole thing, that showings of those have been sold out for like weeks in advance. Because that's supposedly the best way to experience this movie. Christopher Nolan is a fantastic filmmaker. Brad and I talked about it a little bit, this movie a little bit, on the last episode that we did when we did the draft of booked movie adaptations. That Christopher Nolan, his Batman movies, great films, not great Batman movies. Not saying that's necessarily a bad thing, but they're not. I prefer Matt Reeves' Batman over the Christopher Nolan Batman movies any day, and I prefer Batman Begins over The Dark Knight. But Oppenheimer is probably my second favorite Christopher Nolan film. The Prestige is number 1, but this movie, it's 3 hours long, but it didn't feel like it to me. There were some parts in the beginning that, as we're getting introduced to the characters and getting a feel for it, because Christopher Nolan, in every one of his movies, he needs to, and he wants to, experiment with time. His storytelling revolves around time in one way or another. So with this movie, we've got some kind of different time frames that we're looking at, that we're jumping back and forth from the present to the past, all mixed in there. You're going from color to black and white in sections, depending on whose viewpoint you're seeing the story from. If it's from Oppenheimer's and everything he was going through, it's in color. If it's in the future and going from Strauss or any of those people's points of view, then it's black and white. So it's very unique storytelling. Like only Christopher Nolan, I feel like, can do this well. And the score is by I'm gonna blank. I think it's Ludwig Göransson who composed it. It is, and he did Mandalorian, stuff like that. Usually Christopher Nolan works with Hans Zimmer, but Zimmer was doing the Dune movies and tied up with those, so he wasn't able to do this or Tenet. Ludwig Göransson has done them, and he's a fantastic composer. He has done a great job on the scores that he's worked on, in my opinion. One thing I saw that was interesting was that they didn't include any drums in the score because they felt like that was too rah-rah American military, which is kind of counteractive to the story of Robert J. Oppenheimer and this invention of the atomic bomb and everything that went on behind that, from their work at Los Alamos and the Trinity test and everything with that. This movie has such a stellar cast, and the supporting cast and even in minor brief cameo roles are fantastic. Like, one thing that was interesting, Matt Damon is in this as Leslie Groves, who's a military person that recruits Oppenheimer to help develop the atomic bomb and work on that. And he was, some quote from him, he had promised his wife he was on a break from acting for a while, unless Christopher Nolan came knocking and asked him to be in a film, and Christopher Nolan did for this. So one thing that I thought was outstanding isn't the right word, but that kind of blew me away, is this movie only had a budget of $100 million. And it looks as good as it does. It sounds as good as it does. It has the cast as incredible as it does. And then we've got Marvel's Secret Invasion show that's like $212 million and is rough. And now I'm sure some of that you've got these actors that are doing it for lower dollar amounts than they had asked for other projects, just because the confidence they have in Nolan and the honor to be in one of his projects. This is the first lead Cillian Murphy has had in any of Christopher Nolan's movies, but he's been in a lot of them. He was Jonathan Crane, Scarecrow in the Batman movies. Emily Blunt is in this as Kitty. You have Florence Pugh. Robert Downey Jr. is in it as Louis Strauss, who's the other kind of, he's almost the lead of the black and white sections, is telling his story and him at a committee hearing. And he is so damn good in this. And I was worried that it would be kind of weird just because I'm used to seeing him as Iron Man and Tony Stark for so long, and that's what I relate him to in my head. That was going to be hard to separate it, but man, he made this role his own. He acted his ass off in it. And I saw a quote that Robert Downey Jr. was even saying that he was worried he had forgotten how to act well and they wasn't going to be able to be up to snuff for this because he'd been playing Tony Stark for so long. Alden Ehrenreich is in this, who was Han Solo in the movie Solo that a bunch of people shit on, that gets a lot of unfair hate, I believe. I thought Solo was a lot of fun. Is it perfect? No. Alden Ehrenreich was great in it. Jason Clarke is fantastic in this movie as well. There are so many I don't know who is going to get supporting actor nods from this film, but there are so many performances you can pick and choose from that Emily Blunt could get it. Robert Downey Jr. could get it. Jason Clarke could get it. Matt Damon could get it. It's just, Emily Blunt, I don't think she could get lead actress because her role is small enough that even though she's kind of the lead female character in this, she's not really a lead of the movie. It is very much Robert Oppenheimer's movie. And also, I said it wrong. I said Robert J. Oppenheimer. It's J. Robert Oppenheimer. This movie was inspired and based on the book American Prometheus by Kai Bird. Kai Bird had stated he visited the Los Alamos set when they were filming, and he was shocked at how much Cillian Murphy looked like Oppenheimer. And he told him, Dr. Oppenheimer, I've been waiting to meet you for decades, which is just very author humor there. Said Cillian Murphy laughed until they'd all been reading his book. There were quotes. Matt Damon had said that when he got the script, it was written in first person, which was the first time he'd kind of seen that from Cillian Murphy's, from Oppenheimer's perspective, which is the first time he's seen that in a script. But and it's misstated that there was no CGI used in this, which is insane. But everything's practical effects, what they put together, even for explosions. There's some computer enhanced images in it, is what I have heard. I am not an expert in the field, but from what I've been reading and seeing, but Christopher Nolan just crushed it with this. It's not. I've seen some people characterize it as an action movie, and it's not. It's almost more of a thriller than anything else. Like the suspense that it has going on in it, and then like there's multiple hearings that take up probably at least a third of the movie, maybe half of the movie. The Strauss's hearing, and then Oppenheimer one he had for his security clearance years after the Trinity test, because of his efforts and what he was doing after creating that to kind of stem or warn about the dangers of going down the path of nuclear weapons. And it is just like, it kept me hooked and engaged throughout the whole thing. Like I said, this, I think, tops The Dark Knight. It tops Batman Begins. It tops Inception, Interstellar, all of those. This is number 2 in my Christopher Nolan power rankings. Highly recommend you see it. Even if you can't see it in theaters, still watch it, obviously. But man, the theater experience with this, with how the sound was mixed, just in certain scenes, the anxiety, how the score adds to it, other sounds that they have just building up, and with the explosion to it, the Trinity test, it is so damn well done. And I do think it's kind of funny that the Barbie movie's getting all this hate and stuff for being woke, demonizing men, and it's what's getting all the hate in the news. This movie has a very poignant message about the American, like the military's, I don't know, the American military complex, how the government works and things like this, and not caring disregard for certain things, not listening to experts, everything going on with this that is very like hypercritical of things that are true. Like, there are things that happened. One thing in it, minor spoiler, but it's history, so I guess not really, is that President Truman met with Oppenheimer, and Oppenheimer is telling him like concerns they had, not being able to sleep as well because of what they unleashed and they started. And Truman says, I don't want to see that crybaby ever again when Oppenheimer leaves. And it's documented that after their meeting, Truman did actually say that to his staff. And it is just things like that and things that are going on behind the scenes with Strauss, Robert Downey Jr.'s character at his hearing, things that get uncovered about Oppenheimer's security hearing and other people whose warnings and things like that went unheard. It is such an interesting and compelling story, and crazy everything that happened. But highly recommend you see it. Florence Pugh has a small role in it that she steals the scenes that she's in as well. It is just, I don't know what else to say. This is probably my favorite biopic that I've seen of all times. Part of that could be because sometimes those they can drag. But this and Chevalier are 2 biopics that I've seen. Chevalier is a little bit more fictionalized because there's a lot more that's unknown. But those are the ones I've talked about on here recently. They're fantastic. Highly recommend you go out and see as soon as possible and enjoy. That's going to do it for my Barbenheimer reviews. Both great. Recommend you see them as soon as possible while they're still in theaters. Like, go support these movies. Let's get more original ideas like this. I love my Marvel movies and everything, but man, they've been going downhill lately. And let's get studios to throw money at original ideas, take chances on things. One thing I've been seeing is that Mattel is taking kind of the potentially the wrong opinion and the wrong message from the success of Barbie, and now said they have so many other properties they were going to work on movies on. And it's like, well, this wasn't successful because it's a movie about toys. It's, yeah, there's some of that nostalgia it ties into, but it's the message that it tells, and it's a movie that's targeted towards women when so few movies these days are. Like the action movies, women enjoy them, yes, but you are primarily trying to reach as broad or general audience as possible, or a primarily male audience, because they're the ones who show up at these movies more. But women and audiences in general have been showing, you make a movie for women as well, it gives representation, people will show up for that too. So an unfortunate casualty with the success of these movies is Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, which I have heard is great and I was really wanting to see in theaters, but with these movies' success, they are eating up as many screens as possible. I tried to look for a showing of Dead Reckoning, which has only been out for a month, and it is on one screen in the 4 theaters in my town. One screen right now, and it has been out since, I don't have the release date. I can't find it off the top of my head, but it hasn't been out that long. It's been out for about a month. July 11th. It hasn't even been out a month. It's been out less than 3 weeks, and it is just not on screens anymore. Meanwhile, because how you feel about different things, like Sound of Freedom is still showing in all these theaters. And Mission Impossible isn't. They absolutely bungled the release date of that. They should have pushed it either earlier or later. The idea of summer blockbusters, as great as it is, you're missing the point. Like movies now, if there's so many options, and people got during COVID, like, man, maybe I don't need to see it in theaters. I can wait till it comes out. Space your shit out. It doesn't need to be in the summer. Push it to the fall. Do it in the spring when there's not as many big things releasing to compete against. Get as much visibility as you can then. People will see the movies when they want to see the movies if your movie is compelling and good enough. It doesn't need to be in the summer. People have jobs year round. It's like this isn't targeted for school kids who are going to go during the day anyways. Release at different times of the years. Give us good movies year round, not just summer. That is my Blockbuster rant. Few other random notes. This is not a Daily Mail e-news type podcast, but we're a musical podcast. We've talked about the Wicked movie. Everything's on hold right now for everything because of the writer strike and the actor strike, because studios are just trying to do sketchy shit with AI and then not trying to pay their actors, actresses, things that are fair. Like I saw there was one thing, I forget which studio it was, that was trying to make deals that if an actor records one scene, they can use AI for their image, their voice, everything in like perpetuity, without their like consent or agreement. So basically they can do one role, get paid a shit minimum, and then these studios can just profit on them forever. Now these are I haven't researched in depth. This is based on things I'm seeing on social media, so apologies if I'm misrepresenting it. But another thing I see people saying is like, well, don't they make enough? You see these big name actors and actresses speaking up. It's like, they're striking for the smaller actors and actresses, the people who play bit parts that aren't these big movie stars. They're the ones that are getting taken advantage of. Those lower tier actors, not lower tier because they're skills, but because they're not those big names that everyone knows. They're the ones that are getting screwed on these deals, on these negotiations, on everything. And so you're having these big actors and actresses who are also striking and who are also being vocal to show their support and to try to get a fair deal for everyone. So support writers, actors, everything like that. Studios need to just pony the fuck up and take it off your $12 billion bonus that you got by Bob Iger, however fucking much it was, and pay people what they're worth. Like, it's not that hard. Don't take advantage of the little guys. Now, I'm going to talk briefly about Secret Invasion, the Marvel Disney Plus series. Okay, I'm not going to go too much into heavy spoilers, but there will be some minor spoilers. Marvel has just been fumbling the bag with their movies since Endgame. The quality has gone down with the series going on there too. They're going for quantity over quality. It seems like there have been reports of visual effects artists that are just getting underpaid and overworked and getting hit with unrealistic timelines. And Kevin Feige, smart as you've been on some things, you just need to give people more time. Superhero fatigue is getting real. Like, people are getting tired of these things. People are wanting to see more original things. They're not wanting to see these half-assed things. It started more with, I feel like Black Widow is where some of the special effects really started showing that they were slipping. I thought Black Widow was a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed Black Widow. But when that movie was released and came out was at one of the absolute worst possible times, both with COVID and for that character. We already knew how her story ended. So then going back at the time then didn't really do anything for us. It should have been released when it took place after Civil War. But Secret Invasion, I had such high hopes because it looked like we were going to be getting an kind of espionage thriller type series, a little darker, a little grimmer. You never know who you can trust, with Samuel L. Jackson leading, who was fantastic, and Colby Smulders, and it had Emilia Clarke in it, Olivia Colman, Ben Mendelsohn, who I love Ben Mendelsohn, and in his press tour for this before everyone went on strike, him and Emilia Clarke were just great together. There's some really funny clips out there if you want to go search and find those. But the Skrull storyline could have been awesome. And man, I thought the first episode was really good, but then I just felt like they steadily kept getting worse, feeling rushed. We were having shorter episodes, which they need to stop with the 30-minute episodes and only doing 6 episodes a season. Things are rushed. They're not feeling fleshed out. There's been, like, the finales of Marvel's Disney Plus series have, except for Loki, have been unmemorable. She-Hulk was decent. I liked what She-Hulk did. She-Hulk flipped things on its head and broke the fourth wall and was kind of self-aware about the copycat things. And one of the things that Marvel's been doing so much, they did with Miss Marvel, they've been doing it with all these things, are the finale is just two people, a hero and a villain with similar powers fighting each other. She-Hulk called that out and said they explicitly weren't going to do that. And I thought that was great. It gave us something different. It gave us something unique. And then Secret Invasion turns around, and that's what they give us. And now they have created the most overpowered character in the MCU. And it is, I don't know. They did stuff that undid character development for Rhodey. If what they're saying, which it sounds like the director is just making an assumption on how long, minor spoiler alert, Rhodey was actually a Skrull. They saying it was since Civil War, which undoes all of the character development of Rhodey from Infinity War, Endgame, everything like that. It would make sense if he was a Skrull during Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because how his character kind of acted like that was different, and he didn't have his leg braces on, and you could see. But man, if they're undoing that and saying he was a Skrull since Civil War, that sucks. I hate that decision. I'd love to be proven wrong, But Secret Invasion was a letdown. Now, I don't think it was as bad as people were reviewing. Like, it has the finale has 13% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's not that bad, but it's not great. It's not great. Oh, and I started talking about Wicked before I started getting on here, so I apologize. Bunny trails all over the place today. But Wicked, drama going on with that is that Ariana Grande is now supposedly dating Ethan Slater, who is playing Bach, which is just from a movie in universe standpoint is funny to me because Bach is the one that's in love with Glinda and she's just kind of using him and doesn't care for him at all and is trying to pawn him off on Nessa. So it's funny to me that those two people are supposedly now dating, but it's just like, it's messy because he was married, has a kid, supposedly filing for divorce now. It's a whole thing. And so now we have SpongeBob and Elphaba are dating in theory, which is just interesting and drama, and it'll be interesting to see how things go when the strike eventually ends and things get back on track, they start filming. It'll be interesting to see how things develop with that. But we're already starting to see some movies getting delayed because of the strike. Actors can't promote it. Release dates of future ones that are still have like reshoots, filming things to get the Kraven the Hunter movie got pushed from October of this year till I think it's August of next year. And I think we're going to be seeing that a lot more on these releases coming out later this year. If the studios don't get their shit together and agree to a deal with the Writers Guild and SAG-AFTRA, that we could see like Dune 2 getting delayed. But it'll be interesting to see what shakes out over the next couple months. But I'm going to wrap it up there. It's a mini episode. I've already been going a little long. Hopefully you enjoyed the mini episodes of Barbie and Oppenheimer. If you've seen them already, let us know in the comments what you think of them. Go over to our Instagram, vote on who you think won our draft from the last one that we did, the book to movie adaptations one. There's a post on there that has all the rounds broken out. So comment on there if you think Team A or Team B won. Feel free to comment movies you want us to do in the comments of YouTube, Instagram, DMs, whatever. Reviews. Leave us reviews on iTunes, Spotify. If you leave a review and you request a movie on the review, that movie will go directly on the wheel, like our main wheel, not the viewer submission wheel, the main wheel. So leave a review. Tell us what movies you want us to do next. Tell us ideas for set lists, which are when we draft, pick 3 things, 5 things, whatever, whether it's pizza toppings. We're going to do next week. We are going to do kind of finish the lyric thing on songs. So that should be interesting. So give us suggestions, different things you want to see us do. We always want to grow the pod, do different things. Comment, review, 5 stars, like, share, everything like that. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to go down once more. Later.